Good morning, everyone. Listen to me. There comes a time in your life when you've got to stop babysitting your excuses. You've got to stop rocking your weakness to sleep every night, whispering lullabies to your limitations and calling it self-care. No. There comes a moment when you must stand in the mirror, look that weak version of yourself in the eye and say, your time is up. See, some of us keep praying for new seasons while dragging our old selves into them. You can't step into destiny still holding hands with dysfunction. You can't walk into your promise while dragging the corpse of your past. There's a version of you that survived, but surviving is not living. Surviving is not thriving. Surviving is not purpose. You see, the weak version of you, that fearful, doubting, procrastinating, people-pleasing, excuse-making version, that version was only meant to get you here. It was temporary. It was a stepping stone. But you made it a home. You built a bed in a wilderness you were only supposed to walk through. I came to tell you, you can't be powerful and pitiful at the same time. You can't conquer the mountain while crying over the molehill. You can't walk in purpose while worshiping your pain. That weak version of you must die so the warrior in you can live. Some of you are protecting the very thing that's poisoning your future. You defend your doubt. You justify your laziness. You excuse your inconsistency. But hear me. Every time you make peace with your weakness, you declare war on your potential. You keep saying, I'll do it when I feel ready, but destiny doesn't wait for readiness. It waits for decision. You don't need to feel strong to act strong. You don't need to feel brave to step forward. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's movement in spite of it. There's a version of you that dreams, that plans, that prays, but never moves. You keep saying one day. Let me tell you, one day is not on the calendar. One day is code for never. Kill that weak version of yourself that keeps postponing your purpose. There's another version of you. Strong, disciplined, focused, anointed, unstoppable. But that version is trapped behind your comfort zone. And the only way to free it is to crucify the one that keeps saying, I can't. Stop feeding what's killing you. Stop entertaining what's draining you. Stop rehearsing what God has already delivered you from. You've cried long enough. You've doubted long enough. You've played small long enough. It's time to rise. It's time to evolve. It's time to kill that weak version of yourself. Because until you do, you'll keep watching other people live the life you were called to lead. You'll keep clapping for others while silencing your own gift. But not anymore. No more shrinking. No more excuses. No more fear disguised as wisdom. There is a greater you on the other side of that weakness. And the only thing standing between you and that greatness is the courage to say, this version of me must die so the real me can live. So today, bury your excuses. Lay your fears to rest and let the strong, disciplined, unbreakable, purpose-driven you rise. Because destiny is waiting, and it's tired of waiting for the weak version of you to move out of the way. You can't step into destiny while holding hands with dysfunction. There's a reason why every time you try to move forward, something inside of you keeps pulling you back. It's not always the enemy on the outside. Sometimes it's the enemy on the inside. The habits, the people, the patterns, the comfort zones that you refuse to release. Those are the invisible chains that keep you bound while you're praying for freedom. You're asking for a new chapter, but you keep rereading the last one. You're trying to walk into purpose, but your heart is still entangled with the pain of what used to be. You want a new life, but you're still nurturing the wounds of the old one. You see, destiny demands separation. You can't walk into the promise while dragging along the poison. There are some relationships, some habits, some attitudes that cannot go with you where you're going. They were fine for the version of you that was surviving, but they are fatal for the version of you that will thrive. Dysfunction feels comfortable because it's familiar. It's predictable. You've lived in it so long that chaos feels normal and peace feels strange. But hear this, Comfort is not confirmation, and familiarity is not freedom. Just because you've learned to live with it doesn't mean you're supposed to keep it. Every step toward destiny requires a sacrifice of comfort. Every elevation demands a shedding. You can't climb a mountain with your arms full of baggage. You can't build a future while holding on to everything that broke your past. Dysfunction will disguise itself as loyalty. It will whisper, "Don't let go." They need you. You owe them. This is just who you are. But destiny is calling you to more, and more always costs something. The cost of destiny is detachment. You cannot hold hands with dysfunction and expect to walk with purpose. You've got to stop romanticizing the things that are killing your growth. You keep making excuses for the people who drain you, for the habits that distract you, for the patterns that destroy you. You tell yourself it's not that bad, that you can handle it, that you'll change it someday. But you can't fix dysfunction by cuddling it. You can't heal what you keep protecting. Sometimes you have to be honest enough to say, this is not healthy for me. This is not helping me. This is not who I am becoming. There are some environments that suffocate greatness. There are some conversations that shrink your vision. There are some mindsets that paralyze your movement. And if you keep walking hand in hand with dysfunction, you'll start adjusting your pace to match its limitations. You'll start thinking smaller, dreaming shorter, and settling sooner. You'll become so accustomed to mediocrity that excellence feels uncomfortable. You'll confuse dysfunction for destiny because you've lived in it too long to recognize the difference. You've been praying for elevation, but God won't elevate you while you're still entangled. He loves you too much to bless you in bondage. Because if you reach destiny with dysfunction still attached, that dysfunction will sabotage everything you build. It will creep into your decisions, your relationships, your leadership, your vision. It will whisper insecurity when you need confidence. It will sow doubt where you need faith. It will breed fear where you need courage. Destiny requires discipline, and dysfunction resists order. You can't have both. Sometimes destiny calls for separation from the very thing you thought you needed. Sometimes it's a friendship. Sometimes it's an environment. Sometimes it's a mindset you've carried since childhood. Dysfunction might have been your survival strategy once, but it cannot be your life strategy now. The way you learn to cope in chaos won't serve you in peace. The patterns that helped you endure pain will choke your purpose if you don't release them. You can't walk into destiny carrying the weight of wounds that were never meant to be permanent. There's a freedom that only comes through letting go. It's not easy. It's not comfortable, but it's necessary. You've got to untangle yourself from the things that keep you small. You've got to unlearn the language of limitation. You've got to stop giving first-class loyalty to people and patterns that treat you like a backup plan. Destiny is too expensive to pay for it with dysfunction. Every step forward will require you to leave something behind, a belief, a behavior, a bond that no longer fits where you're going. Stop praying for open doors while clinging to closed ones. Stop asking for a fresh start while recycling old pain. You can't step into what's next if you keep worshiping what was. Dysfunction will convince you that you can't make it without it, that you're too broken, too behind, too unworthy. But that's a lie. You were created with purpose, and purpose cannot fully bloom in polluted soil. If you want to grow, you've got to uproot what poisons your ground. You've got to clear out the weeds of negativity, self-doubt, and toxic connection. You were never meant to live tied to turmoil. You were meant to walk in freedom, clarity, and strength. But freedom doesn't come by wishing for it. It comes by fighting for it, by saying no more to what drains your destiny, by choosing growth over guilt, peace over performance, purpose over people-pleasing. You can't step into destiny while holding hands with dysfunction, because destiny requires both hands free, one to build and one to break, one to reach forward and one to release what's behind. The moment you let go of what's breaking you is the moment you start walking toward what's meant for you. You can't be powerful and pitiful at the same time. Life will give you moments that test which one you'll choose to be. You can either stand in strength or sit in sorrow, but you cannot do both. There is a power inside you waiting to be awakened, but it will never rise while you are busy rehearsing your pain. You can't keep telling the same story of how they hurt you, how they left you, how it didn't work out, and expect to move in authority. Power and pity cannot coexist in the same spirit. One must die for the other to live. Every time you choose pity, you surrender your power. Every time you replay what broke you instead of rebuilding from it, you delay your own progress. There's a part of you that wants to be healed and a part that wants to be heard. The problem is you keep feeding the one that wants to be heard more than the one that needs to be healed. You've learned to get attention through pain, to find identity through struggle, to seek sympathy instead of strategy. But hear this truth. Nobody can rescue you from a pit that you've decided to decorate. You keep adding pillows to your problems, making them comfortable instead of confronting them. You built a home in what was meant to be a hallway. You've made sorrow your sanctuary. And as long as you stay there, your power remains dormant. Power begins when you take responsibility, not for what happened to you, but for what you do with it. You can't rewrite the past, but you can redefine its purpose. You can't change the betrayal, but you can change your belief about it. You can't control what they did, but you can control how long you let it live in you. Power is not pretending it didn't hurt. Power is refusing to let it define you. Power says, yes, it happened, but it won't hold me. Pity says, it happened and I can't move on. Pity builds a memorial around misery, while power builds momentum out of it. There's a language of the powerless, constant complaints, endless comparisons, repeating the same story to anyone who will listen. That language keeps you small. It trains your mind to live in lack. But power has a different voice: quiet confidence, discipline, accountability, forward motion. When you shift from pity to power, your words start to align with your purpose. You stop saying I can't and start asking how can I? You stop waiting for someone to fix it and decide to rise and do it yourself, because you realize that nobody's coming to save you. And that's not a tragedy, that's your liberation. You can't walk in authority while clinging to victimhood. The two cancel each other out. When you see yourself as powerless, you unconsciously invite people and situations to treat you that way. You start tolerating what you should be transforming. You start settling for what you should be surpassing. You start saying yes to things that drain you because you're afraid to say no. But power has boundaries. Power knows its worth. Power says, I'm not begging to be seen when I was born to stand out. Power doesn't shrink in the presence of difficulty. It expands under pressure. Pity collapses under weight, but power learns to lift. Life is not fair, and power doesn't deny that. Power simply refuses to be defined by it. You've been through heartbreak, disappointment, loss, but none of that means you are broken. The world will try to convince you that your scars disqualify you. In truth, your scars certify you. They prove you survived what was meant to destroy you. Pity wants people to feel sorry for the wound. Power uses the wound as wisdom. Power takes pain and turns it into purpose. Every great transformation starts with a choice to stop waiting for things to change and start becoming the change. There's a version of you that's still sitting in the ashes of what was, while another version is standing, waiting for you to get up. But you can't rise while clinging to your reasons for staying down. The why me mindset keeps you bound to yesterday's storms. Every time you say why me, you surrender the authority to move forward. But when you say watch me, everything shifts. Watch me heal. Watch me rebuild. Watch me rise. That's the language of power. Power doesn't need validation to move. It moves and becomes the validation. You can't lead, create, build, or inspire from a pitiful place. Pity seeks comfort, but power seeks challenge. Pity wants attention, but power wants transformation. Pity waits for someone to feel sorry. Power takes responsibility and moves in silence. Power is not loud, it's consistent. It's not about control over others, it's control over self, over emotions, over reactions, over the narrative you tell yourself. Because as long as you keep saying, I'm not enough, you'll keep living beneath your calling. The words you repeat become the walls around your potential. You've got to stop giving energy to what weakens you. Stop revisiting old wounds, looking for new sympathy. Stop measuring your worth by how much you've suffered. Power doesn't come from being untouched, it comes from refusing to stay broken. Every storm you've survived has already given you everything you need to stand in strength. You don't need another apology. You don't need another chance from people who mishandled you. You just need to remember who you are. A fighter, a survivor, a creator, a builder. You've already made it through things that others would have collapsed under. You've already proven your resilience. Now it's time to live like it. You can't walk into your destiny dragging your disappointment. You can't carry yesterday's pain into tomorrow's purpose. There's no room for power in a heart full of pity. Every day you wake up, you have to make a decision. Will I be the victim or the victor? You can't be both. One will silence the other. Power doesn't ask for permission to exist. It claims its space. It doesn't wait for the right conditions. It creates them. It doesn't rely on emotion. It relies on decision. You've got to decide that your story will no longer be about what happened to you, but about what came out of you because of it. There's nothing more dangerous than wasted potential. And the quickest way to waste it is to keep watering pity. You can't keep feeding the fear, the doubt, the insecurity, and expect to feel powerful. Power grows where gratitude and discipline live. Gratitude for what you've survived and discipline to become better because of it. Power is not born in comfort, it's forged in conflict. Every struggle you faced was a classroom, and every disappointment was a teacher. You just didn't know it was preparing you for the strength you're about to walk in. You can't be powerful and pitiful at the same time, because power demands you rise even when it still hurts, to believe even when it doesn't make sense, to move even when you're afraid, and to keep building even when it feels broken. Every time you make peace with weakness, you declare war on your potential. You were not created to live comfortably in limitation. You were designed to grow, to stretch, to rise beyond what feels safe. But when you start negotiating with your excuses, when you start justifying your laziness, when you start tolerating what you should be transforming, you are silently signing a contract that trades your GR. Stop telling yourself you can't change because of what you've been through. You're not what happened, you're what you do next. Pity remembers the pain. Power remembers the lesson. Pity looks for sympathy. Power looks for solutions. We're not created to live in defeat. You were created to dominate your domain, to rise above circumstances, to transform obstacles into opportunities. But that only happens when you stop letting your past have the loudest voice in your present. You have to silence the narrative that says you're not enough and replace it with one that says, I'm ready. Eatness for mediocrity. Weakness is not the enemy until you start protecting it. Weakness becomes powerful when you give it permission to stay. You teach your mind to settle when you keep telling yourself, it's okay, I'll try later. You train your spirit to shrink when you keep saying, this is just who I am. Potential doesn't vanish, but it does grow quiet in the presence of complacency. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, your potential sits in the corner and waits. It waits for the day you'll stop lying to yourself about being tired. It waits for the moment you'll stop comparing your process to someone else's progress. It waits for you to finally say, I'm done making peace with the parts of me that keep me small. Because weakness thrives in the atmosphere of justification. As long as you can explain why you're not growing, you'll never feel the need to. As long as you keep labeling fear as wisdom, procrastination as patience, and insecurity as humility, you'll never experience the strength that's already in you. Every giant you refuse to confront becomes a God you begin to serve. Every limitation you refuse to challenge begins to control you. Weakness whispers, you don't have to push today. You've done enough. Rest. But sometimes rest is not recovery. Sometimes it's retreat. Sometimes you're not resting from growth. You're hiding from it. You've gotten comfortable with almost, with halfway, with good enough. But potential was never meant to live in almost. Potential needs pressure. Potential needs challenge. Potential needs to be uncomfortable to wake up. The very thing you keep running from is the thing that will unlock the next version of you. You can't conquer what you coddle. You can't overcome what you excuse. You can't grow past what you keep protecting. When you make peace with weakness, you build a house on sand. You create an identity rooted in struggle and call it stability. You start to say, this is just my personality, when in truth, it's your prison. Weakness doesn't always show up as failure. Sometimes it shows up as settling. You stop chasing better because you've learned how to be okay with average. But average never satisfies the soul that was built for greatness. There's a quiet voice in you that knows you're capable of more. You silence it every time you accept less than your best. You numb it every time you choose easy over excellence. Potential is like fire. It burns quietly until you feed it, but it dies when you smother it with excuses. You can't make peace with weakness and expect your dreams to stay alive. They start fading, not because they weren't real, but because you stopped feeding them with effort. Weakness convinces you that discipline is too hard, that consistency is too strict, that growth can wait. But what weakness doesn't tell you is that every delay has a cost. Every day you postpone purpose, you lose power. Every moment you refuse to move, your potential becomes a little quieter, a little colder, a little less visible. Weakness doesn't always scream failure. Sometimes it hides behind comfort. You convince yourself that because you're not doing badly, you're doing well. But survival is not success. Stability is not fulfillment. Weakness teaches you to celebrate being stuck because it feels safe. But potential demands risk. It demands that you move when you're uncertain, that you act when you're afraid, that you keep going when you're tired. Weakness wants you to stop at the mountain's base and call it victory. Potential says, keep climbing, you're not done yet. The most dangerous peace you can make is peace with limitation. Because the moment you stop fighting for better, you start fading into ordinary. You start accepting patterns that drain you, routines that bore you, and people who stunt you. You stop asking questions that challenge you. You stop setting goals that scare you. You stop believing you're capable of more. And little by little, your light dims, not because life broke you, but because you stopped burning. You made peace with the part of you that fears failure instead of feeding the part of you that hungers for greatness. Weakness will disguise itself as self-acceptance. It will tell you that you should just love yourself the way you are. And while that sounds kind, it's incomplete. True self-love doesn't mean settling for your current state. It means believing you're worth the work it takes to become better. It means loving yourself enough to not let yourself stay small. Making peace with weakness sounds like compassion, but it's often compromise. You can love yourself and still challenge yourself. You can be grateful for progress and still hungry for more. The two are not enemies, they are partners in growth. Potential isn't loud. It doesn't beg for attention. It waits. It waits for the moment you finally decide that your excuses are no longer worthy of your energy. It waits for you to say, I'm tired of talking about what I could be. Every time you stop chasing what's possible, potential takes a step back. It doesn't punish you, it just pauses. It pauses because it won't compete with comfort. It won't wrestle with weakness. It waits for your decision to evolve. There's greatness in you that weakness has tried to bury under self-doubt. There's discipline in you that laziness has tried to silence. There's creativity in you that fear has tried to suffocate. And the only reason it feels like potential is fading is because you've stopped fighting for it. Every dream dies the moment you stop demanding more from yourself. Every calling grows dull the moment you stop sharpening your focus. Weakness will tell you to take a break from your purpose until it feels easier. But purpose never becomes easier. You become stronger. When you make peace with weakness, you lose the urgency that drives growth. You start saying, I have time. But time is not promised. The opportunity you delay today may never knock again. Weakness thrives on delay. It convinces you that there's no harm in waiting, but every pause in progress is a seed of regret. Potential doesn't die in an explosion. It dies in slow neglect. It dies in the daily decision to stay the same. You can't fight for your future and protect your limitations at the same time. You can't want success and stay loyal to habits that sabotage it. You can't pray for growth while holding on to patterns that prevent it. Weakness is persuasive. It knows your fears. It knows how to sound reasonable. It knows how to convince you that now isn't the right time, but there will never be a perfect time. There will never be a season where everything aligns just right. You either move with what you have or watch what you could have fade away. Every time you make peace with weakness, you surrender the fight that could free you. Every time you lower your standards, you train your spirit to settle. Every time you silence your hunger, you shrink your destiny. Weakness is not a wound to be healed. It's a comfort to be resisted. The moment you start confronting it, the moment you stop letting it decide your pace, your potential begins to wake up again. Because potential doesn't need permission. It needs pursuit. It doesn't need comfort, it needs conviction. It doesn't need peace with weakness, it needs war against it. Destiny doesn't wait for readiness, it waits for decision. Too many people spend their lives waiting for the perfect time, the perfect sign, the perfect set of circumstances to move. They wait for fear to disappear, for validation to arrive, for everything to make sense. But destiny doesn't wait for your feelings to catch up, it responds to your faith. You keep saying, when I feel ready, I'll start. But readiness is an illusion. Nobody ever feels completely ready for what's next, because what's next always demands more than what you've already mastered. Growth doesn't ask if you're comfortable. Destiny calls you to move. Even when your voice shakes, even when your knees tremble, even when the path ahead is unclear, readiness is often revealed in the act of obedience, not before it. There are moments in life when hesitation is the thief of breakthrough. You stand at the edge of opportunity, but fear disguises itself as wisdom and whispers, wait. You start overanalyzing, overthinking, overplanning, convincing yourself you need just a little more time. But time is not the problem. Timidity is. Every destiny-driven person has to decide whether they'll be guided by fear or by faith. Fear wants proof. Faith moves without it. You'll never have all the information. You'll never see the whole staircase, but you still have to take the first step. Destiny is activated by decision, not by comfort. You keep looking for signs when the sign is already inside you. That pull in your spirit. That fire that won't let you settle. That vision you can't stop seeing in your mind. It's not random. It's destiny calling. But destiny doesn't chase. It waits. It waits for you to decide that where you are is no longer enough. You'll never walk into what you've been called to do until you make the decision to leave behind what you've been conditioned to accept. The doorway to destiny always looks like a risk. That's why so many people never walk through it. They'd rather live with the discomfort of doubt than the responsibility of decision. But indecision is still a decision. It's the choice to stay the same. You say you're praying for clarity, but sometimes clarity doesn't come until you move. The road doesn't light up until your feet hit it. You can't see the whole map until you start walking. You want God to show you the destination before you start the journey, but destiny doesn't work that way. It unfolds in motion. It reveals itself to movers, not sitters. When you decide to step forward, doors start opening that didn't exist when you were standing still. The resources, the connections, the opportunities, they align with movement, not with hesitation. You've been talking about your dream for years. You've written the vision. You've made the plans. You've gathered the inspiration. But what you haven't done is decide. Because decision is not talk. It's action. Decision means deleting the backup plan. Decision means burning the bridge to mediocrity. Decision means doing it scared, doing it uncertain, doing it imperfectly. Destiny doesn't demand perfection. It demands commitment. Every person who has ever achieved greatness decided long before they felt ready. They decided to trust the calling more than the comfort. They decided to move when everything in them said, wait. They decided to believe that the presence of fear didn't mean the absence of faith. Readiness is a myth that keeps dreamers stuck in planning mode. You can prepare forever and still never feel ready because preparation without decision turns into procrastination. You think you're getting ready, but you're really hiding behind the illusion of progress. You're waiting for the right people to support you, the right finances to fund you, the right moment to announce you, but destiny is already waiting where you're afraid to go. You'll never discover what's possible while standing in what's familiar. The unknown isn't your enemy. It's your introduction to the version of you that destiny requires. Every breakthrough begins with a choice, not a perfect choice, not an easy choice, a committed one, a decision to move forward, even if the path is messy, a decision to grow, even if it means outgrowing some people, a decision to try, even if it means you might fail. Decision is the doorway to destiny. You can't pray your way into purpose without being willing to walk into it. You can't declare change and then resist it. You can't ask for expansion and still cling to excuses. You must decide that comfort is too expensive and purpose is worth the price. You keep saying, I'm waiting on God, but often God is waiting on you to stop hiding behind fear, waiting on you to stop treating potential like it's a punishment, waiting on you to use what's already in your hand. Readiness isn't about having everything. It's about using what you already have with boldness. The widow didn't wait for more oil before she poured. She poured what she had, and the flow came after the action. Destiny responds to movement. As long as you stay still, you stay stuck. Every miracle begins with motion. Every open door begins with a decision to turn the handle. You can't keep living like you have infinite time. Every day you delay is a day destiny moves to someone else who decided faster. You think delay is harmless, but destiny has a schedule. It has moments that require your obedience, not your opinion. You've missed opportunities before because you were waiting to feel ready, and that's why the same seasons keep repeating. Readiness is not the signal, decision is. You decide and destiny adjusts. You move and the way appears. You act and strength shows up. The confidence you're waiting for only arrives after you move. The truth is, you'll never stop being afraid, but you can decide to stop letting fear lead. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's mastery over it. It's the decision to move even while you tremble. It's saying, I might not have it all figured out, but I'm still going. Readiness is overrated because it keeps people dreaming, while decision makes people doers. You can't keep dreaming about what you're unwilling to decide for. Dreaming without decision becomes a form of self-sabotage dressed as hope. There's a divine rhythm to decision. The moment you say yes, everything connected to that yes begins to align. The resources start to move. The right people begin to appear. The strength you didn't know you had rises up. Decision unlocks direction. Decision awakens destiny. It shifts you from potential to progress, from desire to discipline, from wanting to walking. You can't think your way into purpose. You have to move your way into it. You don't wait to feel ready. You decide to start and grow as you go. Stop asking for signs when you've already been given strength. Stop asking for permission when you've already been given purpose. The life you want doesn't start when you're ready. It starts when you decide. You don't need to be perfect to begin. You just need to begin to become. Every second you spend doubting is a second you could be building. Every moment you spend planning for perfection is a moment you could be practicing your purpose. Decision is the bridge between who you are and who you're becoming. Readiness is a feeling. Decision is a fact. Destiny doesn't wait for readiness, it waits for decision. This version of me must die so the real me can live. There comes a point in every life where the person you've been no longer fits the person you're becoming. You start feeling that tension in your spirit, that quiet discomfort that won't let you stay where you are. You try to ignore it, to go back to your old patterns, your old habits, your old rhythm, but something inside keeps whispering, you can't live here anymore. The old you was necessary for survival, but it's not qualified for destiny. That version of you learned how to endure, how to hide, how to cope, how to protect. The person you admired didn't start ready. They started willing. They were scared too. They doubted too. They questioned themselves too. But they made a decision to begin. The difference between where you are and where you're called to be is not skill, it's decision. The world doesn't remember those who almost moved. It remembers those who acted, those who risked it, those who chose faith over fear. Destiny rewards movement, not maintenance. It's waiting for you to stop preparing and start performing itself from pain. But the version that's called to purpose doesn't need to hide. It needs to rise. It doesn't need to protect. It needs to produce. The old you was a shell, a structure that served a season, but that season has expired. If you keep clinging to it, you'll start suffocating in what was meant to keep you safe. Growth always demands a funeral. Something has to die so something greater can live. The weak you, the fearful you, the insecure you, the one who doubts, the one who procrastinates, the one who keeps apologizing for being gifted, has to die. You can't walk into the fullness of who you are while dragging the version that keeps trying to make everyone comfortable. The real you doesn't fit inside the limits you built to please others. You've been living in a costume, pretending it's your skin, but destiny doesn't respond to masks, it responds to authenticity. The real you is buried under layers of people's opinions, trauma, and self-doubt. Every time you conform to who they expect you to be, you bury your purpose a little deeper. The only way to resurrect the real you is to let that false version go. It's not easy to kill a version of yourself that's kept you alive. It feels like betrayal. It feels like loss. Because that version has history. It's the one that helped you through heartbreak. It's the one that learned to survive rejection. It's the one that figured out how to smile when everything hurt. But survival and destiny are not the same thing. Survival teaches you to function in brokenness, while destiny requires you to be whole. You can't keep patching the same old wounds and calling it healing. You have to release the pain that shaped you so you can embrace the purpose that's calling you. The old you is familiar, predictable, and easy to explain. But the new you will be misunderstood. The new you will be bold, unapologetic, focused, and unrecognizable to those who benefited from your weakness. The old you loves comfort. The new you loves calling. The old you wants peace without pressure. The new you understands that pressure produces diamonds. The old you asks, what will they think? The new you asks, what was I created to do? There's always a battle between identity and familiarity. You know what it's like to be who you were, but you've never met the power of who you could be. That's why it feels scary. It's not fear of failure. It's fear of transformation. Because transformation requires death. It requires you to let go of the stories you keep telling yourself, the labels you've accepted, the habits that keep you safe but stagnant. You can't step into purpose while protecting your past. Every version of you that refuses growth becomes a ghost haunting your potential. Sometimes the death of an old version doesn't look dramatic. It looks like discipline. It looks like saying no to things you used to say yes to. It looks like changing circles, setting boundaries, and holding yourself accountable. It looks like staying quiet when you'd rather defend yourself, working when you'd rather complain, forgiving when you'd rather stay angry. The real you is born through sacrifice, not applause. The death of the old you happens in private before the world ever sees the transformation. The cocoon doesn't look glorious, but it's where wings are made. You can't resurrect what you refuse to bury. Some of you are praying for new life while holding on to what's supposed to be gone. You keep resurrecting old patterns with your excuses. You keep speaking life over things that no longer serve you. You can't receive the new while clutching the old. Destiny requires empty hands. You have to let go to grab hold. The reason you feel stuck is because you're trying to drag your old mindset into a new mission. But you can't think like a survivor and lead like a conqueror. The mentality that helped you endure the storm will destroy you in the calm if you don't evolve. Killing the old you means confronting the lies you've believed about yourself. The lie that says you're not enough. The lie that says you don't deserve better. The lie that says success is for other people. Those lies have shaped your actions and defined your limits. But the truth is, you've been powerful all along. You just learned to dim it so you wouldn't make others uncomfortable. The weak version of you was born from fear, fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of being alone. But power begins when you decide that authenticity is worth the isolation. You can't find the real you in the crowd that loved your mask. You have to step into solitude, silence, and surrender to meet the person you were meant to be. This version of you must die because it's addicted to being liked. It's addicted to proving itself. It's addicted to control. It thrives on validation, on needing approval, on being accepted. But the real you doesn't chase applause. It carries authority. It doesn't seek permission. It walks in purpose. It doesn't beg to be seen. It knows it was born to shine. The old you needs everything to make sense before it moves. The real you trusts that movement will make sense later. The old you fears being alone. The real you understands that isolation is often preparation. The old you depends on motivation. The real you relies on discipline. You've been asking for transformation. But transformation means transition. It means leaving behind everything that's familiar to step into the unknown. The old version of you can't cross that line because it's too attached to what was. It's too emotionally invested in staying safe. But safety and purpose rarely exist in the same place. You can't cling to who you were and become who you're meant to be. One must die. The fear-driven, approval-chasing, procrastinating version of you must die so that the confident, decisive, focused version can breathe. The longer you postpone that death, the longer you delay your destiny. The old you fears failure. The real you learns from it. The old you hides behind excuses. The real you turns excuses into execution. The old you doubts the plan. The real you becomes the plan. There's a strength inside you that can only emerge when you stop protecting your weakness. The fire that refines you will also reveal you. Every challenge, every disappointment, every setback, it's all designed to expose what no longer belongs in you. You can't step into higher places carrying the weight of lower mindsets. The weak you must die so that strength can rise. There's freedom waiting on the other side of this internal death. Freedom from fear, from guilt, from other people's expectations. Freedom from cycles that no longer fit. You've been trying to change your life without changing yourself. But true transformation is internal first. You can't rearrange external circumstances while remaining the same inside. Every time you try to step forward, the old you pulls you back because it's afraid of extinction. But the moment you decide, truly decide that this version of you must die, everything shifts. The universe aligns, doors open, clarity comes, strength appears, and peace follows, because the death of the false self is the birth of the authentic one.